My name is Dan Hosier. I'm an amateur trick shot artist, and these are the level 2 jump shots. Here's the setup for shot 2A. We have 6 blocking balls at the 1 diamond line. We're going to put an object ball at the half diamond and the cue ball behind that. The idea is we're going to jump into the 7, over the blockers, and pocket the 8. The 7 is allowed to hit the blockers, but the cue ball is not. For a consistent setup, I like to go exactly 1 ball away, and I like to angle that so that the line of centers is pointing right through the edge of the 8. For execution, the idea is to elevate the cue with some draw, so that you don't have the cue ball hit the 7, hit this, and then follow out of the way. So I'm going to actually hit either at center or below center, and I'm going to hit a little bit to the left just to have it spin back towards the rail. So center, below center, and it's more of a poke than a full stroke because you don't want to follow all the way in and hit the cue ball twice. Shot 2B is a great, very close range jump shot that we're going to use an ultralight jump cue for in this segment. Later on I show a way to make that with a regular jump cue as well. But for this segment I'm going to be using the ultralight jump cue because it gives me the best chance of making this shot. So what we're going to do for the setup is have a row of 6 blockers that are exactly 2 balls off the rail. Now you can't measure the 1, but you can measure the 2 and the rest of them. So just with 2 balls, we're coming up so that every ball is 2 balls off the rail. The cue ball we're going to place so that if I was going right towards the 8, that's down in the corner there, it would go right between the 3 and the 4. And then I'm going to bring another object ball, the 7, frozen to it. And that's about it for the setup. For execution, what I like to do is aim through the 1.5 diamond, elevate my cue quite a bit, 45 to 60 degrees, and aim for just slight left of center. What that's going to do is have the cue ball come back towards the rail if it goes out too far. So right through the 1.5 diamond, good elevation, 45 to 60 degrees, and just a touch left of center, and just poke straight through the cue ball. Shot 2C is very similar to shot 2A in that we're going to be shooting the cue ball into an object ball and hopping over a row of balls. The difference is after we go over the row of balls, we're going to go off the long rail, the short rail, follow down the cue, and make the 13. The hardest part of the shot is hitting the short rail between the point of the pocket and where the cue is, and where the cue has to be is on the first diamond. So we're going to put the cue on the first diamond, and then I can go ahead and rotate it so that it's pointing just to the right of the 13. That's going to give me the best chance to make that shot. One thing you can do to help hit that short rail is to come into the long rail with some clockwise English. So we're going to shoot on the left side of the cue ball to get that clockwise English. What that's going to do is when the cue ball comes into the rail, it will grab and shorten the angle. See if I can show that happening here. So you can see it came in at a pretty steep angle and then comes out at a more shallow angle. So that's the idea of what we're going to do there. As far as setup goes, the blockers go from the 1.5 to the 1.5, and they're just kind of arced along there. The 1 is frozen to the rail, and I like to keep a consistent setup on that, so I'm going to put it one ball off the point. That's not a requirement, it just has to be on the rail inside of the blockers. And then the requirement for the cue ball is it has to be at least 2 balls off of the long rail. Where I typically try to put that though is even with the 5. And then off the short rail, my choice is to put that about a ball off the short rail. What I'm going to do as my initial aiming point is try to go right over the top of the 5. Because I've set the 1 at a consistent place and the cue ball at a consistent place, I can really use this 5 as to inform me as to exactly how I need to make my adjustments. So if I come over the 5 and I end up hitting the short rail, then I would try to go over the 5 maybe a quarter of the way to the 6. If I did the opposite, if I hit too far up the long rail, then I would want to go, instead of right over the 5, more between the 5 and the 4. So we'll see if I need to make those adjustments or not. As far as execution on the shot, don't jack up too much on your cue. You don't need to jack up very much on this to make it. Just a really gentle elevation is all that you really need. And then, as I said, I'm trying to go over the 5, so what I want to do is, in my mind, really draw a line between where the cue ball would be and the 5. So if I can draw that line, and if I can hit that line, I should be pretty close. So here we go, right over the top of the 5 is what I'm aiming for here, with some left-hand English, and it's about a medium stroke or so. I want to show an alternate way to make this jump shot. Instead of using an ultralight cue, I'm going to go ahead and just use a regular jump cue for this. The reason that the ultralight is great for this is that it gets the cue out of the way. Because it's so light, it just kind of bounces off the cue ball, gets out of the way. With a regular jump cue, you have to do that on your own. My aiming point with a regular jump cue is at about 2.5 diamond. And there's 2 keys. One is don't have too much angle. If you have too much angle, you're going to just end up jamming the ball right back into the table and get no jump at all. And then the second thing, so I'm going to go no more than 60 degrees, or try to go no more than 60 degrees. And then the second thing is go off to the side, so that when your cue hits the cue ball, it glances off and out of the way. So I'm going to go towards the 7-ball side on this, and just really think of a nice, quick stroke through the cue ball.